Welcome to A Village in Progress. I'm your host, Alexis. Village in Progress is a weekly call between friends practicing meaningful connection in a world increasingly shaped by technology and AI. Each week, we'll share stories and insights from decades of friendship and explore the rituals and habits that have helped them thrive. We'll talk about the importance of the friendships we have and the ones we hope to build in the future. This is a space for honest talk and hopeful imagination about what it means to care, belong, and build community. I hope you'll join us because thriving villages aren't found. They are built intentionally together. Hey, it's Lex. Hope you're having a great day. Give me a call when you can. Bye. Welcome back to A Village in Progress podcast. If you are watching this on YouTube, you'll notice that this episode looks a little bit different. If you are listening to this at home or on your drive or your walk, I am in our studio solo, just me today. And that's because we have reached the end of season 1 of Village in Progress podcast. Want to give a huge thank you to my family and friends and those of you out there who have been supporting the show. You've been commenting and liking and following and subscribing and watching and listening to all the content. And I honestly, I just couldn't be more excited about how this project and the beginning of this podcast has turned out. When I started, I think I shared a little bit about it. I really was looking for a way to connect with my village, to grow my village stronger. And I think that we have 1,000% started that movement. I wanted to share with you in this wrap-up episode a little bit about how I was feeling before the podcast started and how I felt throughout and how I'm feeling now that this first season is coming to an end. So when I first started the podcast, I had filmed these conversations, and as we were editing them and before January 20th, which is when we officially launched, I had so many conversations with myself in my head and out loud. I went through a lot of emotions, and I brought a piece of paper because I am a very pen to paper person. I take notes, I make to-do lists, I journal, and I really feel like writing down my feelings and what I'm going through and my thoughts and ideas is how I can best get all of that out and then organize it all together. So I have a journal that is full of like half ideas, not yet realized, but maybe in the future they will be. And this podcast was one of them. So as I was writing notes about edits for Josh's episode and getting things together, this huge like self-doubt started creeping into my head. And I remember I wrote on this paper, I wrote out worst case exclamation. And I'll put a picture of this up on the Instagram so that you can see this. But I wrote to myself, is anyone going to listen to this shit? That's what I wrote to myself, but with a big question mark. Everyone will know if this fails. They will know if it sucks. And that's what I wrote. And I kind of sat on that thought throughout making my notes. And so these are like scribble notes, and they're all over the page. And I put that out there. I wrote worst case, and then I continued on with my notes. And then I went back to this and I boxed it in. And I boxed it in to contain it, to try to shut it down and quiet that noise in my head. And I have to say that when I wrote out the worst case scenario, which is no one will listen, everyone will know if this is a huge failure, and if it sucks, like everybody's going to know about it, which it could. I guess, for me, that was worst case scenario. I would be incredibly embarrassed, and I would just have to like crawl back in a hole and wrap this whole project up. And
But when I went back and thought about it, I boxed it in. I closed it up. I put a lid on it. I kept it there because, I think there's always that idea of self-doubt in your head. I think that's natural. I think that that is part of our body's natural defense mechanism to come out when we're putting out something creative or we're being vulnerable. Our mind is like, "Hey, you know, maybe don't do that. What if this happens?" And I think we have to understand that that is a natural part of the creative process anytime you put yourself out there, but it doesn't have to be the leading voice. So I boxed it up, I contained it, and I moved on. And I have to say that going through this process has been incredibly humbling to me. So I really feel a lot of gratitude to my village for showing up for me. And I think that really speaks to the heart of this project, which is making sure that the people in our lives know that we love them and we support them and we care for them, and that we know that they feel the same about us. And I have to say that, there were a lot of humbling times where I had to say to myself, Alexis, it does not matter what you sound like. It doesn't matter what you look like. I took that attitude on very early on, because I think if any of us have ever listened to a voicemail or a recording or any sort of playback of our own voice, or been on video and thought, what was I wearing? Or why did I look like that? Or maybe that could have been a different angle. I think we can all relate to just feeling a little bit, insecure in those moments. But I had to get over that really quickly, because what I really wanted to come through in each of these conversations and each of these videos was how much my friends and I really loved each other. And I wanted them to shine. I wanted them to feel comfortable. And I wanted them to feel like they were in a safe place. And so that became the focus for me in every one of these episodes, is making sure that they came across in a way that they also felt proud about. And I think after hearing feedback from them, from watching their episodes, even though they felt really nervous before it came out, is that they did feel really proud of what we were able to build and accomplish together, and what we were able to show and invite people into. And I know that they were nervous. I remember getting so many text messages from Josh and from Amber and from all my friends and from Shannon after, like, I sounded like this, or what was I wearing? Or, I'm so nervous, but I'm also excited. And, I felt all of those emotions with them. And I have to also just shout out all of our friends that weren't on the podcast, that supported, that sent us comments, that commented on the videos, that sent us all these private texts. I mean, I think the coolest thing for me was, after my friends were on, after their episodes aired, I would get messages from them that were screenshots of messages they had received from people saying how much they loved listening to them, and they came across, and that's why they love them so much. And so I know it meant a lot to not only the people in my immediate village, but to the people who are part of their village outside of our relationship. And so I really do feel like they got a lot of love and a lot of support. And I think that's, the other thing, that we're really looking to grow our villages and to grow our communities. And I definitely think this has opened the door for that. Even as I was preparing for this show, I got an email from Amber, and it made my day. And she just said how proud she was of me and for us to be involved in this together. And and how excited she was to continue to be a part of this project. And I just couldn't be more thrilled at how this has turned out. I didn't fully know what to expect going into this. And I have to say that I 100% will tell you that the friends that I've spoken with and the other friends who have supported from behind the scenes, we are talking more frequently. We are sharing things in our life more frequently. We're connecting on a more regular basis. And it just feels really warm, like this big sense of warmth and joy. And I'm really loving that. And I'm really excited to see how that continues. Um, and as much as, you know, our friends are there during the good times, I think what has been really important and really sort of top of mind right now is that your friends are also there for you when things are not going so well. Your community really wants to show up for you in those times of need. During the filming of this first season, I have had members of the village who have lost, members of my village who have lost people very close to them. I've had other people who have had to make some really tough choices with either their parents or other family members in their lives. And so I think it's a really good reminder that we don't always know what is going on. And if we continue to check in, then we can be a part of supporting these people during their times of need. I know that when people are struggling and they're feeling like everything is crashing down around them, while nothing is going to make that easy for them, I do wholeheartedly believe that when you can lean on your village and your support system in your community, those times become more manageable. I think we're all in search of stability in our lives because stability makes us feel safe. It makes us feel like we know what's coming next. But the older I get and the more I engage with my friends and different people and learn new things about them, I think what becomes clear is that instability and unpredictability are really more of the norm. And what I see is that when things happen that people aren't ready for, they tend to sort of tighten up and want to control that situation even more. And I think all that does is create a pressure situation where, you know, you're trying to control things so deeply that you can't keep a lid on it. And eventually it's just going to explode. And I know that it is very, very hard for people to ask for help. I think it's natural for people to seek out stability because it makes us feel really safe. But unpredictability is probably more of the rule that we should prepare ourselves for. And being able to be resourceful and nimble when things seem out of control. And I think that part of being resourceful and nimble is also understanding that you do have to ask for help sometimes. And I know that it is very, very difficult for people to ask for help. What I know to be true is that people, and specifically people within your village, want to help you, but sometimes they don't know how to help you. And I think that if we can have conversations where we're asking, what type of support do you need? How would you like to show up for me? How would you like me to show up for you in times where you feel out of control? Then we will be better suited to handle these situations that come our way. And I don't think people are having those preemptive conversations. And I think that some of the things that Josh and I talked about in our episode is how can the village support you in your upcoming goals? And I really feel like if we can open the door to having more of these deep and meaningful conversations, then we will be better prepared. We're never going to feel prepared for death. We're never going to feel prepared for, emergency situations, but we can prepare ourselves ahead of time so that maybe in those times of need, we can draw on that experience that we have to bring us back to some place that feels more rooted and centered. And then we can better tackle whatever is coming our way. I feel that we've never been supposed to take life on by ourselves. We're not meant to be alone. And when things go haywire, we need game plans. And it doesn't mean that we're going to remember everything in our game plan and we're going to do it all perfectly. But again, I think if we can train ourselves to start opening up and having these conversations and get comfortable with the uncomfortable of vulnerability, then we will be so much better positioned and feel like we're, able to really survive and hopefully thrive, not just survive. If you have been listening to these episodes, my hope is that you are taking all this in and that it has prompted you to think a little bit about your own friendships and your own community and how they show up for you and how you're showing up for them. You might start to think like, what do individual people in my community, like maybe this caused you to think of one person that could use some support in your community. And I know that I've gotten calls from people who have listened to the show and said, I like to receive help in a certain way, and I like to receive support in a certain way. And for me, doing X, Y, and Z is supportive, but I'm not sure if what I need is what my friend needs. And so really, again, just opening the door to have conversations where you are checking on people and helping them in ways that they find helpful, not that you find helpful for them. And I think these little shifts could really make a difference in deepening our relationships and strengthening them. So I encourage people who are listening to the show to think about that. How am I showing up for not only my community as a whole and my village as a whole, but are there individuals within my community and my village that may need something different? And am I thinking about that on an individual basis? Am I taking what I feel to be support and pushing it on them? Or am I really trying to find out what would be most supportive to them and bringing and showing up in that way? I think what has really hit home for me in having these conversations with my friends is that the ability to be authentic and to be vulnerable and to share your thoughts and feelings, whatever they are, is really the foundation for connection and the key to longevity in relationships. What I keep hearing over and over again is that you and I are friends because we meet each other with no judgment, because we've created a safe place to express ourselves and to be ourselves. And in that safe space, we feel seen and we feel heard. And so this is a place we can be in through good times and bad times. We can have fun, we can cry, we can laugh, we can sit in silence with each other and just be next to each other and feel the support that we're giving. And I think if you can work towards that, we can all build more meaningful and deep and long friendships and connections. I feel unbelievably fortunate to have a handful of friends that I have had for over 20 years and that continue to grow and evolve. And I believe the reason that they have been so successful is because we have shown up as our authentic selves in whatever era that was. And we've been able to grow with each other, and we've all held space for each other's growth and supported each other. And we didn't always grow at the same time or the same pace. And there were times that some of us connected more and connected less. But over time, we have continued to choose each other and to commit to having each other in our lives and to make that effort. And I think that at the core of it, we do share a lot of core values, which is like respect. And we like to learn and we're curious and we enjoy big thoughts and big thinking and we dream together. And I think I can say that for every single one of the people that you met during this first season. I think all of those things hold true. And I think that's why our friendships have continued to stay so strong. And I think that's why I have no doubt that these people will continue to be a part of my life until, well, forever, hopefully. While our core values keep us rooted and connected, we do have different life experiences and different perspectives. And I think that that's what keeps things so interesting. And that's what keeps us so curious about each other. And I think that's why I know when I hang out with these people or when I talk to them, I'm going to laugh and I'm going to be able to, we're going to tell stories and we're going to talk about what's going on in our future and what we hope to bring in. And it's those connections and that ability to be ourselves and that the respect that we have for each other because we have the same core values and how we want to show up. I think that is why I know that these people from my village will be a part of my life for the rest of our lives. And I hope to be a part of theirs. You know, building community is really hard work. It does not happen overnight and it does not happen without intention and without attention and commitment. I know that we are all very busy. I don't really like that word, busy. I think that we all have very full schedules and we have very full lives. But I promise you that putting in the time to stay connected to your friendships is never a waste of time. You know, sending that text, sending that email, picking up that phone call, even when you're a little tired, you can always say, I just don't have it in me to talk right now, but I wanted to hear your voice and say hi. Those little connections are what keep these relationships really strong. I don't think that putting in the time to build and grow these relationships is ever a waste of time. And Ian touched on this a little bit because he had a friend that passed away that he hadn't talked to. And I think that you never know what the voicemail you leave or the text message you send or the phone call that you get through, you never know what kind of impact that's going to have on someone's day. So make the phone call, send the email, send the text, because I guarantee that if you call and leave a voicemail for one of your friends, they don't pick up, but you leave a voicemail. I don't think enough people leave voicemails. I always leave a voicemail. And I just think that I've gotten so many texts after my voicemail, like, that made my day, or I'm cracking up, I can't talk, I'm at work, but like, thank you. You have no control over how other people respond to how you show up. But if you yourself commit to trying to stay in touch more, to sending that text or leaving that voicemail or just sending like a picture or a check-in, I guarantee you will feel better. And I have no doubt that there will be a ripple effect in your relationships. Now that this first season is coming to an end, I said it before, but I feel really proud of myself. And I feel grateful for the community that I have, that I've made, that I've put the effort in to stay connected with for over 20 years. I feel really hopeful about the communities that I will become a part of and the relationships and friendships that are still out there for me to nurture and to grow. And I you know, since becoming a new mom, so over the last like 4.5 years, I do think that sometimes that can feel a little more isolating. You put so much time and energy into helping your children grow and connect. And I think sometimes we can forget that we also, as adults, very much need to water our own pots and get some sunshine and have some joy so that we can grow. And so I have really enjoyed working on those skills and improving those skills of mine in connecting and talking with my friends. And I also just want to say, from a creative standpoint, this is the first time that I have ever been involved in and certainly created any sort of creative project. I never really thought of myself in terms of being a creative person, but the more that I understand that creative is not just art, but it's also writing and its expression, then I do consider myself to be a bit of a creative person with my ideas and the way I think. And I would say to anybody out there who has an idea that they believe in, just start. Start before you feel like you're ready. If you're waiting for things to be perfect and for all the stars to align, you're going to be waiting forever. I mentioned how nervous I was and the self-talk and the doubt that I had when this was first coming together. But now I feel more inspired than ever to keep going. I mentioned in the beginning how nervous I was and when this was first coming out. And I have to say that now I feel so inspired to keep going and to keep having these conversations. I fully understand that this is not a sprint. This is a marathon, and I may have to crawl my way to the finish line, but I will do it. I'm going to do it. I know that I cannot compare myself to people who have been doing this for years, who have full scale production companies and sets and editors and teams. I also know that I can't compare myself to somebody who started a podcast that has a built-in fan base of millions of followers. I mean, when I started this, my own personal socials were private and they were made up of only people that I knew. And so it was very nerve-wracking to open myself up in that way. But the feedback has been amazing. And it really gives me the added boost and the confidence to keep going. And, one thing that I did that I think really helped me, again, for anybody who's thinking of starting something, I mean, there is so much room out there for so many good ideas. And I really hope that also, if this has inspired you to finally get that idea that you've been working on off the ground, like that would be amazing. One of the things that I did was, I can't compare myself to these podcasts that have been going on forever. That would be really unfair. And we're just not comparing apples to apples here. So one of the things I did was I found some of the podcasts that I really love. I went back like 3, 4, 5 years and listened to their very first episodes, like their first 5 episodes. And, as you could imagine, they're a little rough. And I feel like this podcast is a little scrappy. And me and my editor, Sam, have worked really hard to like put these together and put our own spin on them and really make them authentic to us and to the mission. And so, if you are looking to start something, I think you have to remind yourself that everybody starts from the beginning. Even like Taylor Swift, and I'm not comparing myself to Taylor Swift because she's amazing. But she started doing like local festivals in front of crowds of maybe like 20 people. I think we look at influencers and celebrities and and people now and think like, whoa, I could never be like them. Well, they started somewhere too. So my advice to you would be, if you believe in your mission and you believe in your idea, just get out there and start. Because I have to say that I didn't fully know how this was all going to come together. And now I have this vision of what I really want this to be. And I'm excited. So far this season on Village in Progress, we have spanned 3,000 miles from LA to Philadelphia. And I have no plans of stopping there. I'm ready to have more conversations and to see where they take me and my village. And, in upcoming seasons, so there will be upcoming seasons of the show, we're going to explore topics like work culture. Most people spend 70% of their time at work. That's huge. And you'll hear people joke about their work families, and the culture and environment that you are in for 70% of your time, 1,000% has an impact on every other facet of your life. So I think exploring what motivates people in the workplace and what kind of cultures invite that growth and community and building and bonding is really exciting. So we're going to be talking about that. We're going to be talking about local community builders, showcasing some people who started supper clubs and getting into the idea of community and farmers markets and how that reaches different people, art collective spaces, and people involved in charities and food banks. So, people really like boots on the ground, helping their community to grow and to thrive. We're going to talk about grief and loss in our villages. I think, we talked about it a little bit on Shannon's episode, but me in particular, I have lost a number of people my age and family members. I've talked about my dad quite often, but I've lost a lot of friends from high school all through college and after. And I think it's really important to have these conversations about what loss is like within your village and how to lean on people. So we're going to be having those conversations. We're going to be talking about family and family dynamics. So and a lot more. So I really hope that you will continue to stay with me on this journey as our conversations evolve and as we dive into different aspects of community building and of village building. Village in Progress will be taking a short break from our full-length episodes. We'll be back in June with an entire month dedicated to fathers and father figures, both who are currently in our lives and also those who are watching over us. Between now and then, I will be releasing bonus after show content. So we'll have episodes that are, we'll have episodes with guests from this first season of Village in Progress, talking about their experience on the show, what they felt before, and what they have felt after, and their experience on the show. So we'll be putting those out. Those will also be on YouTube, and you'll be able to listen on Spotify and Apple or wherever you stream. And we'll be posting that content as well to our Instagram and also our website. If you haven't checked out the website yet, villageinprogress.com, you can get all the episodes and some other information on the website as well. But again, we'll start back up in June with Father's Day. And then after that, we'll take a short break until the fall. So I really hope, again, that you continue to check in. If you haven't listened to all the episodes, they are all up now, and you can stream and watch any of them. There are clips from some of them. There are pictures from all of them. So again, if you haven't gotten caught up, this is a great time to do that. And then look out for the bonus after show episodes, because I'll be putting those out as we record them. I started this first season by asking my friends and guests on the show to pick someone that this podcast and project inspired them to either reach out to reconnect, or to reach out to in hopes of building a new connection. And I called that the Ripple Challenge. And my friends and I spoke about this leading up to their episodes. We talked about it as we were preparing. And really, it was something I mentioned when I first called them and sort of gave them the layout of what I was thinking for the show. And the Ripple Challenge was something I thought we could really track over time and over the years. And I thought it would be so cool to see a map, hopefully a global map. I started with a global map because I really feel like I would like to see how big our village can grow. And so it started with a map, and I really thought it would be cool to pinpoint where our immediate connections were, and then to track our ripple effect of this growing village. And I have to say that some of my friends came with somebody in mind, and we talked about it on their episode. I know Josh mentioned somebody that from his dance group that he wanted to connect with. But what I found, and what I think is so interesting, is that the mere mention of this idea of this Ripple Challenge sparked something in my friends, and they started connecting with people and reaching out and building new connections before we even sat down to talk. So many of them, we had talked about the people that they had already been reaching out to in telling people that they were going to be on the podcast, or it just literally, like I said, sparked something in them. And I think that's so cool. And so my friends have been able to have really meaningful connections as a result of even just trying to think of like one person that they could reconnect with. And I will be sharing my friends' experiences with the Ripple Challenge, as well as their experience on the show, in some bonus after show episodes. And those will be coming out on YouTube. You can get them wherever you stream, just like you're watching and listening to the episodes now. So if you are not subscribed to the YouTube channel, or follow us on Apple or Spotify or wherever you get your podcasts, I would definitely go back and make sure that you hit that subscribe and follow button so that you don't miss these bonus episodes. And those will be coming out as we record them in the next month. They'll be coming out over the next few months. So definitely make sure that you get notified when new episodes pop up, because they'll be coming your way. This ripple effect of sharing our friendships and our connections and our vulnerability has spread to cities and states all across the US. It spanned 3,000 miles from LA to New York, and we've hit some places in between. And this village is growing. It is slowly and steadily growing. It's growing in a meaningful way. I hope it's growing in an impactful way. I know that these connections, like I said, for my friends have been meaningful. The feedback they've gotten has been really meaningful. And I'm just getting started. So at any time, I wanted to share with you that you can head to our website, which is villageinprogress.com. And you can click on the View Our Village on the website. It's a tab at the top, View Our Village. And there will be a map. And right now, updated on the map are all of the locations in the US that our ripple effect and our show has reached. And if you, as a listener or somebody who's watching the show, if you have been inspired to reach out or reconnect, please send me a message, send me an email. You can email villageinprogresspodcast@gmail.com. Let me know where you are and where your connection was made and is growing, and I will be so happy to add that to the map. So my hope is that as the show grows and as more people hear about it, that you will reach out to at least one person and then let us know so we can add it, because I would love over the next few years to be able to track how big our village has grown. I have friends in other countries that I will be reaching out to. So my hope is that we connect continents and countries and really make this world seem very approachable, and see how big we can grow our village. So definitely head to the website, check that out, and please let me know where you're connecting from. I am really looking forward to having more meaningful conversations, to growing our community and continuing to grow our village. So until June, please keep connecting, keep growing, and let's continue to build something meaningful together. See you soon.